morning, 8th grade. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd. All right, so we're gonna wrap up quadratics this week, maybe a little bit into next week, towards the end of the week. I'm thinking of giving you some version of the test, obviously not to count, but to kind of wrap up and review the entire unit. So one of the nice things about today's lesson is it kind of does go over all the methods again, and it has you try some of the different ones. And I want to go over some of the stuff from last week that we didn't have time for on Friday because we were doing the Kahoot. So just remember this I love this little graphic because it kind of shows all the methods we've learned for solving quadratics. So first method we learned in chapter 9 was factoring. Then we learned how to graph and look at on a graph, the x-axis, the x-intercepts are the solutions. Then we learned how to use the square root method, and that only works best when you have just an x squared in the equation. And then the rest you can solve for the d and then square root both sides. Then we learned completing the square, which works for any type of quadratic. Remember, when you complete the square, it's you want to add negative b divided by 2, let me just make sure I got this right, a to both sides to complete the square for that. I believe that's correct. Yeah, now I feel like I need to go back and check. That would be really bad if I gave you the wrong information. I knew that didn't, yeah, sorry, it's divide, you add, yeah. It's adding b squared divided by 2, I believe. Let me double check this. Yeah, b squared divided by 2. So b divided by 2 squared. My bad. Sorry, I knew that seemed wrong. So b divided by 2 squared to both sides and complete the square. And then the quadratic formula obviously works for any method. So that's good to know as well. So one thing we didn't go over the other day, which I thought was worth taking a moment to look at, that we didn't look at Friday, were these questions at the bottom. So you had to basically tell me, you didn't actually have to solve it, but you had to tell me which method you'd use and for each different quadratic, because some methods are better than others. So let's go through them one at a time, and then I'll tell you what you're doing for today's work. So number 13, hopefully, I would do the square roots method for this one, because you can just see there's no dx term. You could add 216 to both sides, divide by 6, and then square root. I think that's about 36, I'm not sure. So I would put here square roots for this method. Same thing for this one. Number 14, again, you just see the x squared term, so I would say square roots for this one. Here, I would do either factoring or complete square. It's kind of already set up for that. You could just take, yeah, that squared and divide by 2. And actually, you know what? I take it back. You would not want to do completing the square, because completing the square, if you remember correctly, I would do it by factoring, because if you remember correctly, completing the square, one of the downfalls is that a has to be equal to 1 for it to work best, so that you can add b divided by 2 squared. So I would actually just do this one by factoring and solve it that way. Number 16, this one, yeah, see, a is 1, so I would do either complete. Actually, you know what? When I see this right away, I'm not going to lie, I'd see factoring, because I can just go boom, 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 x plus 7, x plus 1. So I would just do factoring for this one. That's just me. But if you want to do the quadratic formula or, you know, move this to the other side and do completing the square. That could be up to you. There's really no wrong answer. It's just what you would do. This one, okay, yeah, I would either do, it doesn't, yeah, I would either do quadratic formula or move this to the other side and complete square. And then this last one, I wouldn't go too crazy with this one. I would just do the quadratic formula. Okay. So hopefully that kind of gives you the options of doing different methods, because that's what you're going to do for today's assignment. So for today's work, I kind of wanted to do these 6 questions followed by just 3 more, maybe harder quadratic formula questions. So you're going to do, and I'm sending this out to you a form with multiple choice that'll grade it for you so you can know right away how you did. So you're going to do 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. You're going to solve a quadratic using any method, okay? And round your solution to the nearest hundredth if necessary. I will tell you that one of these, I won't tell you which one, but one of these is no solution. So if you ever get a square root with a negative, you're in no solution territory. I think 2 of these only have 1 solution, if I remember correctly. So that's what you're doing for those. Technically, you could do the quadratic formula for all of these, but like I don't know why you would do that for the first one when you can just divide each side by -10. And then you get x squared equals 5, and just take the square root of both sides and write the answer as plus or minus, whatever that is, and so on and so forth. So that's what you're doing there. And then I really just wanted you to practice the quadratic formula with 3 more questions. So I just randomly picked 5, 7, and 9. Notice it is sea level. There's a little bit of twist here. Like here, you're going to have to minus 10x to both sides. This one, you're going to have to, I would just minus 8x squared from both sides, and then you get a negative 3x squared plus 9x plus 3. Or you could subtract everything to that side, but it'll work out the same. Same thing here. You have to get this one minus 4x on both sides and do the formula from there. So good luck with today's work. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me.